Hey everybody, we're back here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports. As usual, it's Jason, I'm Chucky, we're here at Red Rock, and it's going to be a fun week. I mean, pro football, college football, Ryder Cup. Before we dive into all that, let's kind of break down last week a little bit, Jay. Let's kind of start with college football. UNLV had the big win, the come-from-behind win, where they trailed by 2 touchdowns in the second and the fourth quarter. Miami lost their quarterback. UNLV came back, kicked that game-winning field goal. From the fan side of it, go Rebels. From the business side of it, maybe not so much. You know, as you can hear in the background, I think they were cheering for the Rebels as well on that day. But there was a lot of football that day, some really good games. Some of the games we thought would be really close and featured top 20 teams didn't work out that way. And then a really bad beat, which was an exciting game, but the Oklahoma-Auburn game, where they take the safety at the end of the game to cause the game to fall 7, the number that's at 6.5 all week. You can hear the eruption in the crowd. It wasn't a good game for our side of the counter. But overall, it was a fun Saturday, a lot of good football. Indiana really looked good. Texas Tech really looked good. 2 of the games with these top 20 teams, that 2 teams really stood out. The other 2, not so much, but as it sets up for this week as well.
For me, I so from the betting side of the counter, it was a good Saturday for the bettors. You talked about UNLV was a big win for them. Oklahoma covering with the late safety was a big win. And then Miami, again, a late 13-point fourth quarter to stretch things out over Florida. A lot of tickets cashed on the Hurricane. But surprisingly enough, it was a dog-laden Saturday. There were a lot of underdogs that came in, kind of a sneaky 14-point dogs or more, and just Memphis was able to knock off Arkansas as a 14-point dog, 32-31. Syracuse, an absolute monster upset, a 17-point underdog, knock off Clemson 34-21. We saw Western Michigan, a 14-point underdog, at home to Toledo, win 14-13. And then one of the bigger upsets of the day, San Diego State was a 13-point underdog to Cal, and they won 34-0. So, we're talking all the time about cheering for these underdogs, getting these underdogs. We didn't win some of the big games in college football, but don't be afraid to look for those dogs, specifically the home underdogs, as we get into this week's card, because they do come in, and college football still has these shockers that happen each week.
And we got the cover from Michigan State against USC too, where it looked like USC was going in late for the cover. They fumble, and our side gets the cover. So kind of a goofy Saturday, as Jay mentioned. A lot of those big dogs won, but not the key games overall. So let's look at last man standing really quick before we dive into this week's games. When it comes to college last man standing, there's 497 contestants left. So we continue to see about a 50% drop each week. It's under 500 right now, only in week 4. So congrats to you 497 that are left.
Yeah, and I looking at this week's schedule, I don't know that we're going to get a schedule the rest of the season that has the
right.
matchups that we're looking at this coming week. Some top 25 head-to-head matchups, some other matchups of top 25 teams against divisional or conference opponents. This week's schedule is awesome, and I'll let you jump into it and lead us off with where we're kicking things off.
All right, let's start with Southern Cal.
Wait a minute. You're going to jump all the way to Saturday?
Yeah.
Are you going to skip over these 2 Friday games that we have on the calendar? Before we get into Saturday, can't forget, jump into Friday, Florida State at Virginia, TCU at Arizona State. I think these are 2 great games, and one of the reasons I mentioned that Florida State-Virginia game, I think Florida State and Miami, who are on a collision course for the best game next week, they play head-to-head next week. But this could be a monster look-ahead spot for Florida State, because I think if Florida State's able to win here at Virginia, the winner of that Florida State-Miami, the rest of the ACC conference is winnable games. We could be talking about potentially one of those 2 teams winning an overall number 1 seed coming out of the ACC, just because they're going to have an absolutely fantastic chance to go undefeated. But I get ahead of myself, right. But Florida State at Virginia Friday night, I think that this could be a sneaky spot for the Virginia Cavaliers, but Florida State could be looking ahead to those Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, they definitely might. That's the kind of stuff when you have a big game like that coming up, you see a lot of schools maybe stumble a little bit or be in a really close game because they are looking ahead. So Jay's absolutely right. There's 2 big games on Friday night. All right, now I'll jump to Saturday. So you have Southern Cal taking on Illinois in this game. Illinois was blown out last week by Indiana. Southern Cal just looked like the bigger and faster team against Michigan State last week. You look at this game, some interesting betting tidbits here. Southern Cal's gone over 5 of their last 6 games, yet they're only 1-5 against the number in their last 6 games on the road. Illinois, taking out last week's loss, they'd be 7-0 against the number in their last 8 games, and 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games. They've also gone over 4 of the last 5 against conference opponents. So looks like a lot of scoring here. Some kind of betting trends against a number that favor Illinois a little bit more than Southern Cal, but Southern Cal comes into this game around a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, and it's really hard to say, hey, I like Illinois in this spot after watching what the Indiana Hoosiers did to them last week. I think they're still scoring touchdowns on the Illini. So they got a big number put up against them, but I continuously talk about college football, home dogs. Illinois is going to find themselves as about a touchdown dog here to USC, and I don't think that there's a better spot in college football than taking a home dog off an embarrassing loss with a big opponent coming into town. Brett Bielema and the Illinois Illini are going to be ready for this game. I look for Illinois to put a big effort in here.
So now we're going to talk to a game that I'm not going to talk about very much. So I'm going to let you talk about it more, and that's LSU and Ole Miss. As we've talked about before, Jay's youngest son goes to Ole Miss. He's been there for a game, and the atmosphere and the whole area around there is just crazy, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the college football schedule this week, and I think I'd probably have to put LSU Ole Miss as the third best matchup as we're going to get.
It might be the best matchup
as we get to Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia, Alabama, and LSU Ole Miss is right up there. And again, it just has everything that you could ask for in a college football game. A great place for a game. The SEC atmosphere. Ole Miss won or lost at LSU last year. Garrett Nussmeier, again, one of those guys that's at the top of the Heisman Trophy candidacy. Trinidad Chambliss is now the quarterback for Ole Miss after Austin Simmons gets hurt. He's vaulting him way up into that Heisman Trophy conversation. But this is a game, again, for the ages and a chance for one of these two teams to really solidify themselves as a college football playoff contender. The loser of this game, when you still have to go through the Georgias, the Oklahomas, the Texases that are in the SEC, Ole Miss has got to travel to Oklahoma and to Georgia within their schedule. So a loss here would essentially probably knock them out of the college football playoff. And LSU is sitting in the 4 spot. They're ranked number 4 in the country after that huge win at Clemson to open the season, and then a win over Florida. But I still don't know who LSU is, because the Clemson Tigers have really become not a quality victory with their losses, and now the loss at home to Syracuse. We don't know who Clemson was, and LSU went and beat them.
Clemson's not a good football team.
17-10, and then LSU had about a 10-point win, a 20-10 win over Florida. The biggest thing for LSU is I think they've allowed 7 points, 10 points, 7 points, and 10 points to their opponents in their 4 games. That defense has been absolutely fantastic. Ole Miss has not played particularly good defense. They've had some really high-scoring games. We saw Arkansas come in, put up, I think, a 35-burger against them, a game they won 41-35. They struggled on defense against Kentucky. They were able to play a little bit better against Tulane this week. But again, Ole Miss going to need to score a lot of points to win this game. And again, we see this game about a pick-em because of what we're seeing out of these two teams. I think this is a great game to watch.
We've seen the number kind of come down from 2.5 all the way down to 1, and now kind of go back up a little bit at 1.5. Still a few days away from game time, but we've started to see that early push on LSU, but money starting to show now on Ole Miss.
I know I'll have my probably 4 or 5 Ole Miss polos on the rest of the week, so you can get used to seeing those.
I would bet on
through
it
Saturday.
I would bet on it. A couple of interesting betting tidbits for this game as well. LSU just 4-2 against a number of their last 6 games. LSU has gone under the total 10 of their last 14 games, yet LSU is 6-2 against a number in their last 9 games against Ole Miss. So just a few things to look at when these two teams play.
I think there was a Lane Kiffin tweet out there where he said take the over. So we'll see if he has to answer some questions as to why he's sending those tweets out. But this could be another very, very high-scoring matchup.
Another really good game. As Jay mentioned earlier, this is a phenomenal college football Saturday with all kind of the marquee matchups that we've been waiting for. You've got number 6 Oregon traveling to Happy Valley against number 3 Penn State. Penn State, this game opened 3, went to 3.5, back down to 3, 3.5. It's really kind of ping pong back and forth a little bit. You know it's going to be a whiteout in the stands for Penn State right now. Really interesting matchup as Oregon travels cross country to play the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, and this is the 4:30 matchup, so a late game back east. This is going to be our match of the day again, so if you have the app, make sure to take advantage of the match of the day. Get the 10% bonus on this game. Penn State, Oregon will be our match of the day. The matchup speaks for itself. I mean, where are these two teams? Collision course. Obviously, the loser here takes a little bit of a slip, but again, the winner here vaults themselves into that 1-2 conversation to be able to get that.
That's the case with several of these games we've talked about now. The winner really puts themselves in a great spot. The loser, not so great. With the expanded format, it doesn't kill them, but they're still having a little bit more of an uphill battle.
Yeah, and the stats that Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon, is going to continue to put up this season. Oregon obviously is getting more and more national attention, but when he plays a game now, 4:30 at Penn State, if he's able to put up the stats, I think he's going to launch to potentially the Heisman Trophy favorite. With John Mateer, the quarterback for Oklahoma, banged up, just went in for hand surgery, I think, today, between Carson Beck and Dante Moore. I think this is a big opportunity for Dante Moore to claim a Heisman Trophy.
Isn't it also an opportunity for Drew Aller to showcase himself?
Absolutely.
He hasn't been great so far early on. He was one of the favorites for the Heisman. This is an opportunity against a top 10 team, against the 6th-ranked Ducks, to really kind of showcase his skills as well.
Yeah, and as much as we talk about the Ducks needing to do it on offense, to me, the Ducks need to do this game on defense. We know Penn State's going to show up on defense. I don't expect this to be a super, super high-scoring game. I expect it to be a little bit of a lower-scoring game where Penn State's able to control the football, maybe slow those Ducks down. And the big difference will be in this game, can the Oregon Ducks stop Aller and stop that running game of the Nittany Lion?
I'm going to give you some betting trends here to look at for this game. Oregon comes in 5-2 against the number of their last 7 games. They've gone over the total 5 of their last 7 games. They're 18-1 straight up, though, in their last 19 games, getting points in this one. They're 8-0 straight up in their last 8 games on the road. Penn State only 1-4 against the number in their last 5 games. Penn State has also gone over 7 of their last 10 games, and at home, they are 6-0 straight up their last 6 games. So some trends really favor both these two teams as we come into it. As Jay mentioned, one of the marquee matchups on a great, great Saturday of college football. Another game we're going to look at, Bama and Georgia. Georgia comes into this game a 3-point favorite. Bama's hasn't been an underdog a lot over the last couple of years, but they have been when they play at Georgia. Before I get into some betting trends, I'll let you break down this game a little bit as well.
Yeah, again, it's weird that we're putting this, down 3 or 4 games talking about Alabama, Georgia. If Nick Saban was still at Alabama, this would be our lead game. Everything would be about this game. Obviously, Alabama coming off the loss, but they were coming off an early season loss, but they were up to Florida State. They've been able to bounce back, had a big win over Wisconsin. Ty Simpson, we'll see what he can do. This is, again, Georgia, a win at Tennessee, where they allowed the Tennessee Volunteers, I think they scored 41 points, if I'm remembering correctly.
41-38, yeah.
I thought it was 44-41
right,
in the overtime. So Georgia was able to put up those points, and Gunnar Stockton came back and kind of led that Georgia team, able to throw the football. And I think that gained a lot of confidence to that team to be able to go on the road, win at Tennessee in the overtime period. Obviously, traveling to Georgia, a tough place for Alabama to go. But Alabama's got that chip on their shoulder since that opening season loss to Florida State. But this sets up to be a good spot for Georgia, and a lot of questions out there. I think this is a must-win game for one team and not necessarily the other. But Alabama has to win this game. With the loss already to Florida State, this becomes an absolutely vital game for them to be able to go in there and a very, very tough place to play. But I think Alabama, all the pressure sits on them to have to walk out of Georgia with a W.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Here's some interesting betting trends for this game as well. Bama just 6-3 against the number their last 9 games, 14-6 straight up their last 20 games. However, they are 4-1 against the number their last 5 games against Georgia, and in their last 10 games against Georgia, they are 9-1 straight up. But Georgia, 20-0 straight up in their last 20 games at home. So a couple of trends to look at. Before we get into the pros, we're going to take a quick break here.
I have one more thing before we get. A couple other games that are still on the schedule that, not that marquee, but I still think marquee. Ohio State travels to Washington, an absolutely fantastic game. We've got Auburn, who we saw lose to Oklahoma, is going to now go on to Texas A&M, another very, very tough game to go play. And I will mention, before we start to move on to the pros, I mentioned those home dogs and some home dogs. I'm just going to yell out the team. You go take a look at the schedule, look at their plan. But take a look at Virginia, Iowa, Mississippi State, Tulsa, Illinois, Washington, Colorado. There's your list of some home dogs. Hopefully you can make some money with the dogs barking this week.
We always want those dogs barking, Jay. Now it's time to talk about, as our close friend Bert Cerencione likes to say, the big boys, and that's pro football. Week 3 was by far the best week for our side of the counter. We finally got some puppy love, or as you mentioned with the college segment, some dogs barking. I mean, having the Cleveland Browns beat what everybody thought was maybe the best team in football, the Green Bay Packers, was great. Having the Carolina Panthers shut out the Atlanta Falcons was great. Having the Chicago Bears, the biggest game in the afternoon. That Cowboy game went from the Bears, a small favorite, to the Cowboys too. Having the Bears win that game outright was great. Having the Jets cover was really good. And having the Lions win on Monday Night Football was good. So you can tell my enthusiasm. We don't get to talk about dogs much in pro football, but by far, week 3 was the best week for our side of the counter.
Yeah, good week. There was still some great games that the public took advantage of. The Seahawks blowing out the Saints, a lot of tickets cashed on. Colts go into Tennessee, an easy winner over the Titans was another game that they cashed on. We did get the Thursday night dog with the Dolphins as well to kind of come back and cover on the Bills. That was a game, surprisingly enough, was two-way action with the fact that you were getting almost those 2 touchdowns with the Dolphins. But despite the fact that we got some of the dogs, there was still a lot of games that the public was able to cash tickets on.
One in particular, the bad beat so far of the year. If you had the Rams, they led that entire game basically, and they're lining up for that game-winning field goal, and you may have said, okay, they might not win, wide left, wide right, short, but instead it gets blocked, and it gets returned for a touchdown. So not only did the Eagles go from not winning, they went from winning and actually covering the number. So the eruption in the crowd was unbelievable. So you knew there was a lot of Eagle bettors in our book on Sunday, but a dramatic change and a really bad beat for anybody that needed the Rams, including our side of the counter.
I don't even think the Rams-Eagles was the worst bad beat of the NFL schedule. I think if you're a Green Bay Packer fan, you're asking yourself,
I'm not a Green Bay Packer fan
at
all.
What happened in the last 3 minutes of that game? I mean, I think we're talking about the Packers from all the people that are playing the Survivor contests and that type of stuff. The way that they lost this game to the Browns, I mean, they had a 10-0 lead until the Browns kicked a field goal with 3:38 to go. And then they get the ball back, and inexplicably, they're throwing the football to a team that's only scored 3 points on them the whole day. Throw the interception, gets returned to the 4-yard line. Quinshon Judkins, who's finally able to good to see the Browns probably with a running back that they can have for the next 8 or 9 years if this guy can keep himself out of trouble, because he looked absolutely fantastic. He scores with 3:01 left to go to make it 10-10, and then lo and behold, you think you're safe because the Green Bay Packers drive right down the field, and with 27 seconds left, they're going to attempt a 43-yard field goal that the Browns block. And then they get the ball, and the rookie kicker hits a 55-yarder. So of all the, I think we had 5 blocked field goals on the week, and yes, the Eagles covered against the Rams, but man, if you had a Packers ticket on the money line or a Survivor pool, you got to be absolutely sick in the way that went down.
It really was a thrilling Sunday, though, because you had so many games that you saw either a defensive or a special teams touchdown. You saw 3 or 4 blocked field goals at the end of games, lead changes. It really was probably, from the competitive side of it in close games, the best Sunday so far that we saw this year.
One other weird game that I looked at, we had a team that won a game 30-0, and it was a dog, and it was very good for us. But they won 30-0, and they gave up 17 first downs to 15 first downs. The other team had 66 plays to their 55. They gained 224 yards. The other team gained 332. 201 passing, 114. 131 rushing to 110.
But do you know what that team did?
3 penalties to 65 yards. They were outgained in every statistical thing that you could do, and they won 30-0 except for one.
Do you know why? What stat? That team that had all those advantages in all those offensive categories. You know what they didn't do one time in that game?
I do not.
They did not cross the 30-yard line of the Carolina Panthers. So that's why they got beat and shut out in that game.
And now we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons. A 30-0 lose under Carolina, but statistically outplayed Carolina, dominated Carolina, and lost the game 30-0. And the question has come up to me this week.
But you can dominate between the 30s, but you have to get inside the 30 to score.
The Patriots, who I thought were the better team against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, suffered multiple fumbles by Gibson, Ramondre Stevenson, and a terrible interception by Drake May. But I thought they outplayed the Steelers. But they're 5.5-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers at home. And I got some questions as to why do we have the Patriots such a big favorite? And because Carolina, despite 30-0 win, they were statistically outplayed and outgained the entire game. And again, I think the Patriots, I'll be surprised. I'll lead in. We always talk about the player that we think is going to have a big game this coming week. Look for Travion Henderson because
he's getting first-team reps.
Ramondre Stevenson should have his helmet taken away this week after his 2 fumbles last week. And so all of you guys that spent that draft capital on Travion Henderson in that 4th or 5th round, I think we're going to see him potentially get north of 15 carries and hopefully some catches out of the backfield. So Travion Henderson, put him in your lineups this week, and let's hope for some good things.
I think they also need Drake May to play a little bit better. I think you look at some of the quarterbacks from last year, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, the guys that really played well are having a little bit of that sophomore slump right now. I know it's really early in the season, but those guys that you expected so much for this year and to take that next step, those are 3 guys that really haven't. Conversely, I think you look at Caleb Williams, he's played a little bit better. So you just never know from week to week what you're going to get. But some questions came into before we jump into this week's games. One of them was, of all the teams that are 0-3, who can still save their season? For me, it's the Texans. I think they're a touchdown favorite this week against the Titans. They're a team that in that division, I know the Colts have been really good. Colts are on the road this week at the Rams. I still think the Texans have time to turn it around and be an interesting team in the AFC.
Yeah, and I mean, the division itself leads itself to where if they can come back and get some wins. They're a big favorite this week over the Titans, but next week they play the Ravens again. So even a win this week, they're looking
a must-win for them.
A 1-4 type team. To me, I look to the 2 teams that play each other this week, and I say the 0-3 Dolphins and the 0-3 Jets. The good thing for both of them is somebody's going to get a win this week.
But the bad thing is they play in the same division as the Buffalo Bills, who are a 17-point favorite this week against the Saints, so they'll be 4-0.
But the 0-3 Dolphins and the 0-3 Jets, one of them is going to get a win this week, and the Jets play Dallas at home next week, and the Dolphins play at Carolina next week. So there's a very, very good chance that one of these 2 teams can put in a 2-game winning streak, get themselves back to 2-3, gain some confidence. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to go Jets or Dolphins. Give me the winner of the Jets-Dolphins to find a way to grind back into this thing.
All right, on the flip side now, looking at teams that are 3-0, I think who do we trust and who don't we trust? Of course, I trust the Bills, I trust the Eagles, and I'm really starting to trust the Chargers, Jay. I mean, all 3 of their wins are against divisional opponents. They beat the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders. They're in a really good spot. They're a favorite this week against the Giant team that is making that quarterback change to Jackson Dart. I think this Charger team is really, really good. The one team I still have a little bit of question about is the Indianapolis Colts. I know that Danny Dimes has played great. They're really good. They have to travel and play the Rams this week, a much tougher test for them, and maybe their first real test so far. But I'm starting to be a believer in the LA Chargers.
Can't argue with you there. Again, another gift of potentially going to New York as a 6-point favorite this week. Should be another easy win. When I look at the 3-0 teams, and obviously you talk about the Eagles and the way that they were able to win that game late against the Rams, the Bills, the Bucks, the Colts, the Chargers. I think the easy answer to that one is the Colts, who should be around a 500 team. Travel to LA this week, where, that's a really, really tough back-to-back, beat the Titans, they were expected to win, and now go to LA and have to play a team off of that horrific loss that the Rams have. But I'm not going to go to the Colts. I still have some faith in the Colts. I've said a long time ago that I think this is a very, very good football team, and Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, the quarterback, is really the question mark. Can he find a way to not turn the ball over and play
he has
solid football for them to be able to me, I'm going to tell you that I don't trust the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as we sit here right now. And the reason, we're 3 games in, they're 3-0, and in those 3 wins, they've won those 3 wins by a combined 6 points. They won by 2, they won by 1, and they won by 3.
All at the end of the game, too.
All last-minute drives. So, they host the Eagles this week. After they host the Eagles, they go to Seattle, they host San Francisco, and they go to the Lions. So, this cardiac kids, I don't know how long it's going to continue. And if Mike Evans is not there, he's obviously been their veteran leader. Baker Mayfield is doing amazing things, and I'm going to continue to go back to what I told you 4 or 5 weeks ago about Emeka Egbuka, that this kid's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to have stats better than Mike Evans by the time it's all over with. And I think I said he's going to have stats better than Mike Evans at the end of this year, and now I'm feeling more and more confident about that. But they could get Godwin
and
back.
Tristan Wirfs.
And Tristan Wirfs. So the Bucs are getting some pieces of the puzzle back. But I'm not sold yet that Tampa Bay is that 3-0 team that you have to be afraid of, just because of the way they've won these games. They allow the other teams to stay a part of it, and they've been able to steal them late. Now, again, that's a sign of an excellent football team, being able to steal games late. And I love Egbuka, but I put everybody else with a better chance than the Bucs.
I think the one thing the Bucs have going for them is the division they play in. I think they're by far the best team in that division right now. And at some point, of course, they're going to get Mike Evans back. You get Godwin back if he's healthy and playing well, and Tristan Wirfs. I think it really helps that team a lot. But you're right, missing Mike Evans for 2 to 4 weeks is going to be a big loss for that team. But getting Godwin and Egbuka really helps. So one other thing to look at, Jay kind of talked about all the home dogs in college football. Half the pro football slate this week also has home dogs. So take a look at that schedule a little bit too. It seemed like a lot more parity last week. You had home dogs that actually won games, like the Cleveland Browns were able to win that game. The Bears were able to win that game. So some home dogs really prevailed, the Panthers. So take a look at the home dog schedule this week in pro football as well. We're going to dive into some of the bigger games this week, and I'm going to jump right into maybe one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game. You've got Philadelphia traveling to that team Jay just talked about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philly's a 3.5-point favorite. Total's 44. Before I get into some betting trends, what do you think about this one, Jay?
Well, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back again. Told everybody last week that we had a guy sleep in, had a really poor first 2 weeks of the season in A.J. Brown, and we finally, if you watch the first half of the game, you're going, what the heck's Jason talking about? Because A.J. Brown was still pulling off a disappearing act. But the second half of the game, he came back. Strangely enough, he went 6 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown, and that's exactly what he did against the Rams in November of last year. 6 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Pull that tape back up, and I told you he's going to have over 100 yards and a touchdown. He was really the catalyst that led them back in that game, and obviously the blocked field goals and the defense. But the Eagles finally found some confidence outside of Saquon Barkley and Hurts running the football, and that was throwing the football to Brown and Devonta Smith and Goddard. So again, when the Eagles put all this stuff together, when you're able to mix Barkley and Hurts and then put the passing game together, they're a very, very dangerous team.
Yeah, it's amazing that the Rams lost this game. They looked like going into the fourth quarter, they were clearly in control, and then if it's not for that blocked field goal, maybe they get a win there. It's a little bit different story with Philly right now, but Philly continues to win. I'm going to give you guys some interesting betting trends here. Philly 4-1 against the number their last 5 games. They've gone over 4 straight. A small favorite here. They're 9-0 straight up in their last 9 games, yet they're only 2-5 against the number the last 7 times they've played Tampa. Tampa is 4-1 straight up in their last 5 home games as well.
Yeah, and my only pause there again with Tampa is talking about Mike Evans. Everything in that offense, with all due respect to Bucky Irving and Emeka Egbuka, everything flows through Mike Evans. When they need a big play, they go to Mike Evans. So in his absence, with Godwin coming back, Chris Godwin hasn't played a football game since, I think, week 3 of last year. How is his timing going to be? What is he going to look like? So we talked about the cardiac kids that the Tampa Bay Bucs are, and obviously Eagles are traveling on the road, but I just caution that without Mike Evans, what is Tampa going to look like, and who's that offense going to flow through?
So we're going to jump into some more games now, and Minnesota and Pittsburgh. And the cool thing about this is that game's at 6:30 a.m. And guess what? Our counters are going to be open, our kiosks are going to be open, and STN Mobile is open. So while you're sitting at home, having a cup of coffee, not sure yet what you're going to do with all the other games, guess what? You've got a number of options to bet on this first game of the day, and that's Pittsburgh and Minnesota in Dublin, Ireland. Should be a fun game. When you look at Minnesota, Carson Wentz played good last week. They got the win. They destroyed Cincinnati. Jordan Mason got into the mix. Jaden Addison, after serving that 3-game suspension, he's going to be back to give Wentz another weapon here against the Pittsburgh team. And although they're 2-1, their defense just doesn't look like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steel Curtain. And I look for this Viking team with Addison back to really start getting on track a little bit with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and again, McCarthy to Wentz, talked about it last week, that don't know how much of it's an injury or just wanting to make a change. Wentz was good, not great. It was
he didn't have to be, though.
It was the Minnesota Vikings defense that stood up here, embarrassed the Bengals. Browning never really in the game. Bengals, again, continuously now unable to really generate anything on offense. We talk about the game going to Dublin. We'll see how that works out at 6:30. You talked about it. Don't have to get up and hurry to get onto the app at that 6 o'clock hour. We're now open 24/7, so whether you're going to bed late or getting up early, the app will be available. Lots of props on the game.
And if you do want to pop in and watch on one of the big screens, over the counter will be open and the kiosk will be open, so you can grab a donut, your coffee, and have some great football.
You don't even have to grab
from Ireland.
$3 beers and $3 shots or a $1.99
Breakfast of Champions
margarita.
Yep. Here's some interesting betting tidbits for this game as well. Minnesota 6-3 against the number their last 9 games, 11-3 straight up their last 14 games. Pittsburgh is just 2-6 straight up in their last 8 games. Maybe interesting here, the total has gone under in 7 of Pittsburgh's last 10 games that they've played the Minnesota Vikings. Another game we're going to jump into right now, game in our backyard. Our Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Chicago Bears. Raiders did not play a great game last week against Washington, and the Bears kind of a coming out party a bit. I guess it's more a product maybe of the poor defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Caleb Williams had a 146 quarterback rating. He had 298 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes. Luther Burden got involved. Roma Dunze looks like the real deal now. They're really building that chemistry. Defensively, they played better, but can they do it back-to-back weeks, and can they win on the road? The last time they played the Raiders in Vegas was 3 years ago, and that was Justin Fields, and the Bears came in and won this game here. Right now, they're about a 1-point dog against the Raiders.
Yeah, and they're full of confidence, obviously, coming off the home win and starting to get all of the playmakers involved, and obviously the Dallas Cowboys did a great job of allowing that to happen. We've seen this Cowboys defense get kind of picked on by each of the teams that they've played. The big thing for me here is talking about Chicago Bears is can this defense stand up? Despite the fact that they got the win over the Cowboys, they still allowed the Cowboys to move up and down the field, even with the absence of CeeDee Lamb.
If it wasn't the turnovers.
We have 2 interceptions in the end zone late in that game. So the Cowboys were able to move the football. I do expect that we're going to see the Raiders have one of their better offensive performances. Trey Tucker now developing as a real target for the Raiders to go along with Myers. We've obviously always talked about Bauer. And
I think Genty has his best game as a pro.
Yeah, the big question is a lot of heat, a lot of pressure coming on Ashton Genty and what he's been able to do so far this season. I agree. I think he comes up with his best game. The Bears have to find a way to stop him first. But this is one of those games where I really don't know what's going to happen. I think it's a very, very winnable game for both teams. Maybe it's a turnover, maybe it's a special teams play, but I think it's going to be an exciting one. I do think this is going to be a high-scoring matchup.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really good matchup, and I'll give you some interesting betting trends for this one as well. The total has gone over, to Jay's point about the Bears defense not being great for the Bears' last 6 games. Bears are just 2-12 straight up in their last 14 games. Have had some success against the Raiders. 6-2 against a number of their last 8 games against the Raiders. Vegas 3-13 straight up in their last 16 games, and the Raiders just 1-6 straight up in their last 7 games at home. So we'll see if that changes at all. But a game in our own backyard, which a lot of you guys might be going to. Now we'll look at another big game and it's the Ravens-Chiefs. And I think interesting tidbit here is that the loser of this game, they're both 1-2, is 1-3. But if you look at these two teams, I don't think it's catastrophic if the Ravens lose this game. Based on the division they play in, we know what the Browns are. They're not going to be competitive. We know the Bengals are going to be playing without Joe Burrow for almost the entire year or the entire season. Steelers, a lot of question marks, especially on defense. I don't think a loss here, I mean, of course you don't want to lose if you're the Ravens, but I don't think it hurts them as much. A Chiefs loss, with the way that the Chargers are playing, and the Chargers being a big favorite on the road against the New York Giants, they could be 1-3 and the Giants 4-0, or the Chargers 4-0. I think it's a really uphill battle for the Chiefs if they lose here. I think it's a much bigger game for the Chiefs, but again, the loser would fall to 1-3.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about the Ravens at all. I mean, we had that opening game loss to the Bills. Again, I think it was 41-38, something like that, where they proved that the offense was fantastic. They went and beat the Browns, and then Monday night the Lions came in and kind of stole the game from them. Again, both of those losses to the Bills and the Lions, you can contribute to a Derrick Henry fumble.
Right.
I mean, one possession, it kind of looked like whoever had the ball last was going to win that game. And so Derrick Henry fumbles the ball against the Bills, gives the Bills a chance to steal that game. Derrick Henry fumbles the ball against the Lions, gives the Lions a chance to steal that game. And we know that this is a very good Lions football team, despite the fact that the opening day loss to the Packers. That offense is a fantastic offense, and when you get the double-headed monster of Gibbs and Montgomery to go along with St. Brown and the other receivers, they're a scary offensive team. So I don't have worry about the Ravens, but Derrick Henry's got to find a way to hold on to the football. I said last week if the Kansas City Chiefs lost to the New York Giants, I was going to push the panic button. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they beat the New York Giants, and you know what? I'm pushing the panic button because I thought the Kansas City Chiefs were not the better team on the field on Sunday night. I thought the Giants were the better team on the field. I thought the Cam Scadaboo welcome to the show party. I'd give this kid the football as much as humanly possible. We didn't see Malik Neighbors as much part of the game, and I don't think we saw Malik Neighbors as much part of the game because of what the scheme the Chiefs were doing. But Russell Wilson threw a 450-yard game against the Cowboys the week before, and Russell Wilson looked like a third-grade quarterback playing against eighth graders on Sunday night. I mean, that final drive where he throws the ball up the tunnel to the back of the end zone and then one to the crossbar and then throws in a 3-yard draw.
Close, right.
And like, I don't know what we're doing. And I don't think that they were that outplayed. I mean, we had a fumble, a backwards pass by Mahomes where his receiver or running back doesn't go get it. Number 58 for the Giants goes and picks the ball up, and Mahomes just goes and takes it out of his arms. If that's the case, the Giants have the ball on the 7-yard line. We had two different plays where number 22 for the Giants, Phillips, commits atrocious pass interference calls against Thornton and Brown that give the Chiefs first downs that they end up scoring on.
Right.
We had the Giants not kick a field goal because Graham Gano was hurt. We had the Giants not kick or make an extra point and get it blocked because they're trying to kick with somebody else. The Giants lost that game. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't win it. So I'm really, really worried that this Kansas City Chiefs, their offense is just not there. Kelsey is not.
That's why if they fall
not
to
the
one,
Hall of Fame
if
is
they fall
Travis
to
Kelce.
1-3, chasing the Chargers is really going to be an uphill battle, I think, in the AFC West.
I think that they're a home dog here that I wouldn't have much interest in. I think the Ravens are the better team. We're going to need the Chiefs big, so we'll probably end up cheering for the Chiefs, but we'll be cheering for the officials to give them a couple more fourth down calls. And I'm excited in the whole realm of things. I'm excited that we don't have to see Russell Wilson play this week. Excited to see Jackson Dart again, the kid out of Ole Miss. But I would be excited if it wasn't Jackson Dart. I would be excited if it was Jameis Winston, as long as I didn't have to watch Russell Wilson.
Interesting stat is, as great as the Chiefs have been over the last 5 or 6 years with Patrick Mahomes, they are actually dogs at home for the second time in 3 weeks. I don't think that's happened in over 6 years.
Well, that's your eyeball test telling you this just isn't the Kansas City Chiefs that have been there for the last 4 or 5 years.
As you said, Baltimore's a 2.5, 3-point favorite. Baltimore 6-3 against a number of their last 9 games. They've gone over 5 of their last 6 games. They're 14-6 straight up their last 20, but just 1-4 against a number their last 5 trips to Kansas City. Kansas City 15-5 straight up in their last 20. They've also gone over 5 of their last 7 games against Baltimore. Excuse me. So some interesting betting trends there. Now we're going to look to Sunday Night Football, and I'm sure when he got traded, Micah Parsons knew that he'd be coming back in 4 weeks, and it's not going to be easy. The Cowboys are banged up on the offensive line. They're banged up at wide receiver with CeeDee Lamb. They're banged up in the secondary. Their defense is atrocious. They made Russell Wilson and Caleb Williams look phenomenal. Now they have to go against Jordan Love and that Packer offense. They're a 7-point underdog on Sunday Night Football. I know from our side of the counter, everything live is going to be going to the Packers. We're going to be huge Cowboy fans in this one. But before I get into the betting trends, you can go ahead and break this one down, Jake, because it's not going to to be easy for the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't think there's anything to break down. And we watched the Dallas Cowboys make Caleb Williams, who has struggled, in his early NFL career, look fantastic last week. And the week before that, we saw Russell Wilson throw for 450 yards at this Dallas Cowboys team. And then Russell Wilson, like I said, played absolutely atrocious against the Chiefs this week. So this Cowboys team better be prepared for Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and this slew of wide receivers that the Packers have to look like the Packers we saw the first 2 weeks. And with all due respect to the Cleveland Browns and their ability to play offense, which is slim to none, and Flacco is not the quarterback of the future. Hopefully the Browns will find the quarterback of the future. But I can tell you this, the Cleveland Browns, they play some fantastic defense. And they get after the quarterback, they get after the wide receivers, they stop the run game. They are a good defensive team. And the Packers ran into that this week, and the Browns were able to steal the game. They are going to run in the Packers to a team that doesn't have a good defense. And I don't know how they get the pieces of the puzzle fixed or add some tools to the shed to be able to play defense this week. And now without CeeDee Lamb, I don't know where we're going to get the offensive weapons. We might have to see Jake Ferguson catch 15 balls or George Pickens collect some long ones. Or maybe the hope is that Javonte Williams can control the running game. But the Packers defense is still very, very good.
Or they finally play Jaden Blue.
And we know Parsons, he's just going to be coveting getting those 1 or 2 sacks, and if he makes any type of play, Jerry's world's just going to go crazy if this guy makes a defensive miscue or some type of fumble or sack fumble or an interception. So I think this is a great spot for the Packers. I think the Cowboys are really a team in disarray and don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to be able to do to fix it.
My guess is Sunday night in Jerry's world, you're going to see about a 50-50 split in Cowboys fans and yellow and green in the stands. So I think it's a tough spot for the Dallas Cowboys.
And we're going to be cheering for the Cowboys, and then subsequently the Bengals are at Denver on Monday night. I think that picking on the Cowboys and picking on the Bengals, and going back as well as the Titans, I think those are two teams that the public is going to continue to pick on until they show us that they can be competitive in a football game again.
Just some interesting tidbits, betting tidbits in this. Green Bay 5-0 against the number the last 5 times they've played Dallas. Dallas 3-9 against the number their last 12 games at home. So to Jay's point, from our side of the counter, we're clearly going to be Cowboy fans on Sunday night. We've got a kind of a quasi doubleheader on Monday Night Football. They're not back-to-back. Both games start about an hour and a half apart. But we'll start with 2 teams that are 0-3, Jets and Dolphins on Monday night. Dolphins come into this game a 2.5 to 3-point favorite, total 44.5. Not sure yet if we see Justin Fields or not. Dolphins have more time to prepare, come off that Thursday night loss against the Bills, although I thought they played much better in that game. This is a Jet team, too, that both these 2 teams just they're not good. I don't think either team makes the playoffs. The Jets, maybe with Justin Fields, have something to build on. I don't know what the problem is with the Dolphin offense, but they just don't look the same as they did 2 years ago with Tua and Hill and Waddle and A-Chain. Something's amiss there, but they're a favorite at home against the Jets.
I think the best thing about this game on Monday night is that the Major League Baseball playoffs shouldn't have a game on Monday. There'll be no baseball on Monday. The WNBA schedule on Monday is going to be not there. So this will literally be one of the few things that you can have a chance to watch and bet on Monday night. So it will draw
on top of the second game.
Will draw your attention, and I say it all the time. Whether they're 3-0 or they're 0-3, you've got a 50-50 chance to pick that winner and cash that ticket. So there's still an ability to pick a winner on this game. And like I said, I do think that again, these two teams have come out of the box really struggling. We did see Miami play a much better game at Buffalo on Thursday night, and they do have the extra rest. Still talking about the quarterback question marks with what's going on with the Jets and if we're going to see Fields. But again, Miami at home. We talked about Mike McDaniels getting fired potentially last week. They played good enough to not get him fired, and now we'll see this week again back at home. Sneaky feeling that the Dolphins find a way to win this game.
And if this game happens to be 3-0 or 0-0 midway through the second quarter, guess what? Bengals-Broncos starts about an hour and a half later. So you'll have an alternative to watch. Some interesting...
you might have some ugliness to watch there as well, as the Broncos are a 7.5-point favorite, and obviously we haven't seen this big threat of Chase and Higgins and Chase Brown out of the backfield. They've really been able to establish nothing on the offensive side of the football.
So I'll give you some betting trends before we go to the Bengal-Bronco game. So first, the total's gone over 5 of the last 7 times the Dolphins and Jets have played. But as far as picking a winner here, Jets 4-10 against the number. Their last 14 games against Miami. Miami just 3-6 against the number in their last 9 games overall. So neither team has done well over the last 10 games or so, or against each other. So if you look at one stat that really stands out, it's that these two teams do happen to score a lot of points against each other. So maybe the over's the play here. The second half of the Monday night doubleheader is the Denver Broncos, who are 1-2, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals come off that really bad game against the Minnesota Vikings. And in Denver's case, they easily could be 3-0. They lose back-to-back games in the last second, basically on the last play of the game. Bo Nix missed Cortland Sutton. He missed Mims wide open. They could have really won that game at LA, found a way to lose. They're just 1-2, but they're playing against a really bad Cincinnati defensive team. We said it when the Bengals were 2-0. It was kind of a mirage at that point, and that was 2-0 with Joe Burrow. Now without Joe Burrow, they're not the same offense. If you've got Higgins or Chase or Brown on your fantasy teams, you're getting literally no points at this point. They're playing one of the best defensive teams in football, led by Patrick Surtain on Monday Night Football. I think it's a coming out party for the Broncos and Bo Nix. I think that offense is going to have a field day against the Bengal defense.
Yeah, and again, when a team gets blown out the way the Bengals did, you go back in that locker room and you know that you're going to get this early season, you're going to get an all-out effort this next week.
But it's the altitude. It's on the road back to back.
Yeah, the spot is really, really bad. Not so much for the Bengals, but it's a great spot for the Broncos, who we saw go on the road twice and lose in dramatic fashion at the Colts, a game that they should have won, and then to lose the game to the Chargers, divisional opponent this week. But be able to come home Monday night, where you talked about it, they have the better offensive line, they have the better defensive line. We're seeing some development of other players too, besides Cortland Sutton, with Troy Franklin becoming a part of that offense, Mims be part of that offense, Dobbins and Harvey. So Denver's got the weapons, and to your point, this could be another spot where if the Bengals don't play early and get something going early, we could see this snowball into the Bengals getting blown out yet again.
Give you some interesting betting trends on this one as well. Total's gone over in 9 of Cincinnati's last 13 games, which kind of speaks volumes about their defense. Denver is just 1-6 though against the number their last 7 games. Cincinnati 5-2 against the number in their last 7 games against Denver. This game continues to creep up. Looks like right now it's sitting at about 7.5. So there's a lot of really, big games this weekend we talked about. Look at the road dogs or the home dogs again. I think there is some value in some of these games across the board, Jay.
Yeah, and football has been the king, but I want to stress, we're in our last week of the Major League Baseball regular season. We've got some absolutely fantastic pennant races. The Tigers and Guardians are in a real close battle here for who's going to take that home. Cal Raleigh has got 58 homers, 27, 34, 30 his last 3 years, and then he puts up this big number 58. So again, just awesome to watch. Let's see if he can get to 60 here in these last couple of games. We've got the Ryder Cup this weekend. Get on the app, check out the amount of props that you have on the Ryder Cup. We talk about being able to bet, the U.S. or Europe or the tie, but the prop menu is absolutely fantastic. From wild cards, top European, top Irishman, top Scandinavian, top, continental, top guy making his debut. There is a ton of different ways to bet this stuff. And the Aces are still in the WNBA playoffs. We're in the semifinals as we sit today.
Baseball playoffs right around the corner.
You're gonna, Sunday. It's probably going to be the game going head to head again with the NFL, with the Aces in the playoffs. But again, this is one of those kind of times a year where you have to make sure you have the app. If you don't have the app, we still have the $50 no worry wager going on. There's so much going on, and early morning football, late football, baseball, now's the time. Get the app, take advantage of that big bonus, take advantage of the match of the day every single day, where you're going to be able to get that 10% bonus, and we're excited to see you here in our sports books. This is absolutely one of those times a year, and I think we're a week away from NHL dropping the puck. So, it just keeps getting better and better and better.
It's a lot of fun, and as Jay alluded to earlier, great drink special. So if you come out early for one of these games over the weekend, you've got the $3 beers, $3 shots, $1.99 margaritas. So if you can't be at the game, there is no better place to be than one of our sports books. And one last thing for pro football, I failed to mention, 690 contestants left in the pro football last man standing. So about a 50% drop in that as well. So you contestants that are left in college and pro, congratulations. There's $100,000 at stake in the college, $150 in the pro. You're doing great. There's been a really huge drop off after 3 weeks only. So a lot of time left, but don't forget, grab your sheets, kind of do your homework, look at them, and have some fun this weekend. So for Jason, I'm Chucky for the Sports Betting Podcast, Bookends, again, powered by STN Sports. Good luck this week. We'll see you bright and early Sunday at our Racing Sportsbooks. See you guys next week. Thanks.